I've sent the course out.
I'll take a look at it, though I know the first topic should be national income, right? So, but let's just do a bit of revision to some, or to others it will be the first time thing. What is economics? So what gives birth to economics is this word here. So this is the basic economic problem, okay? Quiz one, test one. Usually.
Mm-hmm.
So the basic economic problem is called scarcity. So this is a problem that gives birth. So economics comes to answer how the problem of scarcity is dealt with by different individuals, societies, or governments. So what we define as scarcity, okay? So we need to understand what is scarcity. So now there's this word that I believe we all know. We all say we want this, isn't it? So wants are simply things that are desired. So anything that you desire is called a want. So a want is not necessarily a need. I can want something, but even though I don't have it, I'm okay with it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that is the want, right? Then now to produce this want,
Yes.
you need something that are called resources. Okay, so a resource is something that you use to produce this want. Okay, so say for example we are conducting these tuitions, we need some resources that we can use to have this class. One of them, for example, I need my laptop. Yesterday I was available, but my laptop was not there, so we couldn't have the class. So we're not able to fulfill or satisfy that want of having a class because there was no resource. We didn't have one of the resources, which is my laptop. I believe right now you have your laptop, you have your phone, you have your book, your whatever. Those things are there. We put together, we are forming a good or a service. So a resource is simply any asset. So any asset that you use to produce goods and services is what we refer to as what? A resource. Is that fine? Any asset that is used to produce goods and services, we refer to that as what? As a resource. Is that okay? So now these resources, they're also given a unique name that they're also called factors of production. That's just the other name. So factors of production, that's the other name of resources. All right, and they're basically out of these, they're basically how many? I think there should be four of them. The first one we can call it land. So land here we just refer to any natural resource. So think of any natural resource that you can think of, such as what? So the land is also called natural resource. So any natural resource that you use to produce a good or a service. For example, we can use water. You can use the land. Wherever I am, I have to be somewhere. I cannot be Kumuni. I have to be on earth somewhere occupying a certain land, isn't it? So any
Mm-hmm.
resource, if I'm using trees, if I'm using oxygen, any natural resource, we categorize it in economics as land. Okay. So that's what we refer to as land. Is that okay? And then the second one that we have is what? Capital. Now, when it comes to capital, this one refers to the tools, okay, the machines and buildings that are used in the production process, okay, and build that are used in the production process. So let's talk about right now. I'm using a laptop, okay. I'm seated on a table. So the table, the machines, the building I'm in, all those things, we refer to them as what? Capital. Is that okay? So the tools,
Yes.
machines, and the buildings that we use in the production process are referred to as what? Capital. The third one that is there is you and me, which is called what? Labor. We can have land, we can have capital, but without the Duncan being here today, we won't have this class. So human effort that is put in to produce goods and services is what we refer to as labor. So this is the human effort that you put in to produce a good or a service. Is that fine? That is what we call as labor. Then the last one is you get land, you get the capital, and you get this, put them together. that process of putting those things together is what we refer to as the fourth factor of production, which is called entrepreneurship. Right? So entrepreneurship is simply the process of combining these three factors of production to form a good or a service. I hope that is okay. So entrepreneurship is simply the process of combining factors of production to produce a what? A good or a service. Okay. And the person that does this is who we refer to as an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur is simply a person that organizes the land, labor, and capital to form a good or a service. Okay. I hope that is okay. Any question?
Come again on entrepreneur.
An entrepreneur is a person that carries out the process of entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Okay, or a person that organizes the land, labor, and capital to form a good or a service. So therefore, would you define me as an entrepreneur or as a business person? Is Duncan an entrepreneur? Do I qualify to be called an entrepreneur?
Yes, you do.
So I am getting myself as labor and I'm combining it with the laptops, which is called the capital, and I'm using land here, isn't it? I'm bringing these things together to form a service that we're referring now as to a class. This is a service. And Duncan is the one that is behind this organization of this thing. So Duncan is therefore will be recognized as what? An entrepreneur. Is that okay? Yeah,
Sure.
what we have. So now, in order for you to use a good or to use these factors of production, there is money that you have to pay. Is that okay? So if, for example, I use capital, okay, so there's an assumption in economics that consumers are the owners of the factors of production, okay? So firms are not owning the factors of production. So they go to consumers to ask for them. Then maybe they'll give them parente or like a period and stuff. So that's the assumption that is there, of which we notice in reality. Firms as well also own land. They own all these things. So, but here we're going to say firms, we have the assumption that consumers are the owners of the factors of production. So now for firms to use these factors of production, they have to pay a certain amount of money to consumers. Is that fine? So now what the money that these firms pay, okay, or the payments that are made in order for you to use these factors of production is what we refer to as factor payments. So factor payments are simply payments that are made by firms in order for them to use what? To use the factors of production. Is that fine? Yes. So now, for example, one of the factors of production that we have is you. You're labor, isn't it? So when you go for work, your boss is going to use you to make money. And after he uses you, what happens? He doesn't, you at the month end, you say, no, there's something that you've used me as a factor of production, have provided the service, I've done this, and at the month end, what's the money that we earn?
Salary.
Exactly. So for labor, the factor payment for labor is what we refer to as what? A salary or a wage.
Salary.
Okay. So salary or wage is simply a factor payment that is earned as a result of using what? Labor. Is that fine? Now there's a slight difference between a salary and a wage. This one is a monthly period. After a period of time, you earn a salary. Then for wage is where you're earning money maybe per hour or per minute. Okay, like the way we call them a piecework. That's a slight difference between these two, but all of them is the same. They're all factor payments for labor. Okay. So we move on to look at the other one. What about if you're using capital? So let's say you come to me and you want to use my laptop. Okay. And I say, this is capital. Maybe you want to use it for whatever, to have a class. So I say, okay, You can use my laptop, then you give me something at the end of the month. So that money that I'm going to earn for using capital is what we refer to as interest. So interest is a factor payment that is earned as a result of using what? Capital. Very good. So if you use somebody's capital, we refer to as the money that will be paid to you as what? Interest. Okay. Then what about for land? If you use somebody's land, I believe we have all gone through this. Probably if you're owning a house or you're owning houses, if you're using somebody's land, there's something that you pay to them, isn't it, by the end of the month? And we call it what?
Different.
Yes. So rent is the factor payment that is paid for using land. So you can use my tree. The money you give me for using a tree is called rent. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't just be a house. It can be any natural resource. All right. Then the last one is what? Entrepreneurship, isn't it? So now you are working, you're gonna earn a salary. Duncan here is an entrepreneur. So when he makes the money, what will that money be called? Uh-huh. What about entrepreneurship? I organize these factors of production. What's the money I'm going to?
Profit.
Yes, so I am gonna make a profit. But all these are, it is just money, different names, right? That is all. So you need to understand what these four are all about. Is that okay?
Mhm.
All right, so that is all that we have. Okay, yeah, unless there's a question, I need to define what scarcity is. I went run away from it. So remember, we're talking about the ones which are the desires. To produce them, we need these resources of which we have described here. So we go back now and look at this term here that is called what? Scarcity, so that we understand what this economics is all about. So since we have discussed the factors of production, now let us go and look at what is this scarcity. So scarcity, like I mentioned, it is the basic economic problem. And what is this problem? So we know that our resources have a problem. These resources called land, labor, and capital and whatever, they are limited. Okay, we do not have all the land in this world. If we start using it, it's going to finish. It can deplete. So we mentioned to say resources are limited. However, our wants, if I mention here, if I was to start writing down here, limited. If I start writing down Messi's wants here, we can continue and continue. They will never end, isn't it? So our wants are limited, unlimited, unlimited. So what do we have here? We have a situation where our wants are what? Greater than our resources. So if this condition holds, we refer to this as scarcity. So scarcity is simply a condition where the wants exceed the amount of resources that are available to produce them or to satisfy them. Rather, I think that's the right question, word. So scarcity is simply a condition that exists when wants exceed the resources available to satisfy them. I hope you've written that down.
Come again.
I said scarcity is a condition that exists when wants, so a condition that exists when wants exceed, which is this greater than here, when wants exceed the resources that are available to satisfy them. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So that is that. All right, so that's scarcity. Now, where does economics comes in? So because of this thing, we now get to have economists coming up. Economics now studies. So economics studies how economic agents. So it studies how economic agents make decisions. I'll explain about what economic agents mean. So how they make decisions under this condition. So how they make decisions under scarcity. How economic agents make decisions under scarcity and the consequences of those decisions. And the consequences of those decisions. Or decisions, or you can call them choices. It's the same thing. Is that okay? So here we have a problem of scarcity. That means we cannot get everything that we want. So therefore, we must make a choice. And that's what you do because your budget cannot get you everything that you want. We now go home and sit down and say, let us make a budget. The way now you start deciding, so tiniambiri munyumba, no, let us buy this, let us do this. No, 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 no. I think let's not buy this, let's buy it. You're beginning to prioritize that thing that you're doing is an economics act. But economics exactly studies how do people make decisions. So now these economic agents, we're simply talking about the groups that represents an economy. So in an economy, when we say, for example, the economy of Zambia, who are the representatives? We have you and me. So we have individuals. Okay. Now individuals, when you put them together, we get you, you get me, everyone. We are all called households. Okay. Or sometimes referred to as consumers. So households, group of individuals. So individuals. Number two, who else do we have we have the government, right? Number three, who else do we have? We have the firms, who are producing the goods and services. So these are the three main ones. Though sometimes we are also arguably putting also the financial sector as the fourth one, though the argument would be that the financial sector can also just fall here because they're offering a service. Okay, so financial sector. So sometimes they might appear the four of them like that, but these are the three main ones. Okay. So these are the economic agents. So how are these individuals, for example, you and me, how are we making decisions? Okay. If we study how a person does that, then we're looking at what? We are looking at the study of economics. So how do these people make up decisions? That is what we refer to as what? Economics. Okay. So obviously there are a lot of them, but all of them, they will just lie within this same boundary. You won't find anything different about economics. Okay. So I don't know if there are any questions up to this point.
So far, so good.
All right.
So far, so good.
Yeah, so that's what we have here when it comes to the aspect of defining economics. All right. Okay, so now we move on to the next one, and then now we can start the macroeconomics. By the way, there is a difference again between, so the very economics can be divided into two parts. So we can divide economics into what? Micro and macro. Okay, so now what is macroeconomics and what is microeconomics? So the simplest example is that when you look at this class, somebody who comes and hears what we are saying is that this class is organized. The people who are learning are very quiet and they seem to be quiet people. That statement that I've released is a macroeconomic statement because I've just gotten all of you how you are behaving when you are maybe the four of you. And I'll say these are Anvera Maningi Wafaka Kwanzero school. Okay, I'll say this is a good class. So I'm looking at you as a class, as a whole, right? But if I say, let me pick individually, I bring Carol here and I start studying her. And I say, let me see how she behaves, how does she study, I might find that Carol is not really paying attention to school and doing this, but in class she appears to be that. So the class is a good class, but maybe Carol on her own, probably we say she's not very much of a good student. Okay, that's now a micro concept because now I'm looking at an individual economic agent. Okay, but when I say let me study them the way that they work together, that's what we're forming to look at what macroeconomics. So microeconomics is the study of how individual economic agents. Okay, then you finish together the same way we wrote down the definition of economics. So the study of how individual economic agents, this is the biggest thing that would differentiate it, how individual economic agents make decisions. So how individual agents make choices under scarcity and what are the consequences of those decisions. That's what we're referring to as microeconomics. Okay, then, is that okay? So microeconomics is the study of how individual economic agents make decisions under the scarcity condition and the consequences of those. All right. That is that. Then we go now to macroeconomics, which is what we're going to do. So here, for example, when you start looking at microeconomics, you start looking at the first topic in microeconomics is consumer theory. So consumer theory here, we begin to study how an individual, one person, how do you make decisions? When prices rise, how do you react? When prices fall, how do you react as a consumer? When they give you income, when your salary increases, how do you react to that? Do you start buying more goods? Do you start buying less goods? What is your behavior like and how do you make decisions? That is what we're referring to as what? That's what we're referring to as microeconomics. But now when we say these individuals put them together, which they form households. Now let us see how these households are behaving. What happens when the general income of people increases? What happens in the economy? What happens when the government, for example, when something happens like what we're facing right now called inflation? Inflation does not affect one individual. It affects everyone in the country. That is under macroeconomics. So macroeconomics studies how the economy operates. Okay. So here we're getting everybody, and this is the key concept that is here. So here when we put then they put us now together, how we're going to operate. That is now macroeconomics. That's why we're going to deal with things such as inflation, such as unemployment. When we come and look at you as an individual, that's a microeconomic concept. But when we come and look at the whole economy, we're looking at the inflation rate. We're looking at the unemployment rate. We're looking at the inflation rate. We're looking at government decisions. How will government, when there is a recession, how would the government make decisions when there is for example, right now, the exchange rates, the dollar thing, those are the things that we're going to talk about, the things that are going to affect the whole economy. All right. So there's something that is there, which is called the bottom-up approach. So bottom-up approach and the up-bottom approach. Up-bottom approach. This is just to differentiate between the macro and microeconomics. Right? So here, when you're looking at the bottom-up approach, we're simply talking about individuals, okay? You study individuals and how they affect the whole economy. So when Duncan starts doing business, when Carol starts working, and we're doing all these things individually, okay? How are we affecting the economy? And then here with the up-bottom approach, we look at how the government is working here, for example, under the economy. Then we look at how are these decisions that are being made by the government, how are they affecting the individuals?
Uncle D, sorry. I think I'm a little bit lost here from the macro perspective.
Okay, let me
If
just
you,
one more time.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so here the bottom-up approach, we are saying first, we want to look at how individuals are making decisions and how is this going to affect the whole economy. Is that fine? So as individuals will be working, microeconomics is studying us, right? But under macroeconomics, we're going to look at the economy, how decisions that are being made on the economy, how are they affecting individuals? For example, you look at the aspects of inflation. How is inflation, which is a macroeconomic concept, how is it affecting individuals? Are we okay? So here the effect is, here we are studying how these individuals are affecting the economy. And then here we're looking at how is the economy affecting the individuals. This is the macro. Then the micro, we are looking at the individuals and how. So for example, we start looking to say, let's study a firm. One firm, we pick one firm such as Trade Kings. When they start making whatever they are making and whatever they are doing, how are they going to affect the economy? Because remember, we said economics is a study of how the micro, how individual agents are making decisions under scarcity and the consequences of those. So what consequences? Those consequences, when they make decisions, they will affect the whole economy. Then it's the same thing here. When you come to macroeconomics, HH comes and says, we have made a decision. We're going to engage the IMF. We are going to do this and do this. Those are changes that are made by the government which are affecting the whole economy. So now how are those changes going to affect individuals? Is that a con? That's what we're talking about. So how is the economy, which is up there, affecting the individuals? That's now there. How is the government decisions? If the government tell us we are going to have load shedding, so how will that load shedding now start affecting us here? Could be my baba shopu, could be my turn, the individuals are being affected. And you know, if the individuals are being affected by these things that are macroeconomic, what will happen is the individuals here, when they're affected, to come to a micro concept, when they're affected, what happens to the economy in turn? The economy as well will be affected. Okay, so that is simply what we call the up-bottom approach. Unless there is any question on the micro and macro.
So in simpler term, what is the difference between the macro and macro?
Okay.
In simpler terms.
Yeah, I would say just given the definitions, they are okay. Writing it as micro studies individual economic agents. Okay. Whereas macroeconomics studies the economy as a whole. Okay. We are bringing
as a whole. Okay.
Yes, this is the only key. That is all. So individuals, how is Carol behaving? How is she doing this? And then now we say, we know how Carol behaves and stuff, but now how does the whole class behave? Okay, so let's say, for example, we say, do we make noise as a class? Yes, the whole class is a noisy class, but inside that noisy class, when you start studying individuals, you will find that there are other students that are actually quiet. Okay, but at the macroeconomic concept, when you study them together, they are a noisy class. But at individual level, there are others who are quiet. So micro pays attention to individual economic agents, such as you look just at individuals. How does one person make decisions? When you look at firms, how is one firm? You pick, for example, you say, how does maybe what company comes to my mind? Anything? All the companies are gone in my head.
Trade King.
Huh?
Trade King.
Yes, so
Trade King.
Okay, so maybe we can pick Big Tree, right? Big Tree, though these are a group of companies. Let's pretend it's one company. So how is Big Tree making decisions? How many workers do they hire? How many, what are the profits? How do they make profits as one firm? But now, when it comes to macroeconomics, we're going to get all the firms, put them together, and then study how firms operate. That's macroeconomics. All right, that's the reason why now we're going to go into national income. At this point now, national income, under microeconomics, we're going to focus on Carol's individual income, okay? When you're looking at consumer theory. But here, we're looking at national income. So the income for the nation. So meaning we're going to get Carol's money, we put together with Duncan's money, put together with Messi's money, all of us in the economy, whatever the individuals are making, plus we also look at the government's money, everything put together. What is the income for the country? That's national income. And that's the first topic and the most important topic when it comes to macroeconomics. Are we okay?
Yes.
Yes. So I think at this point now we're going to the first thing now that you need to divert in. I thought of the circular flow diagram, but now we're going to start the macro. This, what I've taught you here, is for any person that is starting to do economics, whether macro or microeconomics. But now we're going to start doing our first topic, which is going to be the foundational topic. If you understand this, what I'm about to teach you right now, we're going to take, I think, a week to learn everything. This is the only topic that is there in macroeconomics. You learn this, the rest of the things. If you don't understand this topic, you're going to say macroeconomics is hard. But if you understand this topic, everything is going to be a walkover for you. Okay, so I really want you to pay attention to the national income, which I'm going to cut this class and then obviously send it to those people that were not here so that we leave them hanging and wanting to know now what is national income and what is comprised, because national income is the most important topic when it comes to macroeconomics. Okay, microeconomics is split, it's divided, like the things are individually. But when it comes to macroeconomics, everything is related to something, is related to national income rather. So you have to understand what is national income, how is national income calculated, what are the methods that we can use to calculate, of which today, before we cancel and call it a day, we are going to do introduction to national income, how it is calculated, the methods that we can use to calculate it rather, and then what else? Yeah, the different measurements of national income. So I'll cut this class and then we'll break for, I think, maybe my class is starting at 17. Okay, so maybe we can break for about maybe 7 minutes, and then I'll send the other one, then we'll just do about maybe 15 minutes. That is all. All right. So I'll start at 05, then we'll run for 20 minutes. Is that okay? 15 minutes rather.
Okay. That's okay.
All right, so my class is cutting now so that I doesn't prolong. Then I'll send you this. Mashamba